Nari Kim stood outside the big metal doors of the council room. Her hands were shaking a little. She held her presentation remote tight and tried to breathe slowly. Today was not going to be fun. The doors opened with a soft sound. Inside, 12 different types of aliens sat around a huge round table. Each one looked very different from the others. Some were tall and made of crystal that glowed blue. Others looked like they were made of light itself. A few had 4 arms and bug-like eyes. "Come in, human," said one of the crystal beings. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "We do not have much time." Nari walked to the center of the room. A big screen waited for her there. She plugged in her device and looked around at all the alien faces watching her. Most of them looked bored already. She was the only human in the whole academy. The other students were all aliens from different planets. They were much older than her and came from races that had been traveling in space for thousands of years. Humans had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. "State your name and topic," said Commander Talon Vex. He was one of the 4-armed aliens called Kithara. His voice sounded like a computer. "I am Lieutenant Nari Kim from Earth," she said. Her voice was too quiet. She cleared her throat and spoke louder. "My topic is human warfare, a brief history. I have been given 5 minutes." Several aliens made sounds that she knew meant they were not interested. The crystal beings' lights dimmed. The light aliens became less bright. Even the bug-eyed Kithara looked at their watches. Admiral Zephyr, the biggest crystal alien, spoke. 5 minutes is more than enough time for such a simple topic. Please begin." Nari felt her face get hot. They thought human fighting was simple and boring. They thought humans were just dumb animals who hit each other with sticks. She clicked her remote. The first slide appeared on the big screen. Slide 1, Human Conflict, an Introduction, she read. "Humans have been fighting wars for over 4,000 years. We have records of battles from ancient times until now. In all of human history, there has never been a single year of complete peace on Earth." The aliens looked at each other. Some made clicking sounds with their mouths, others flashed different colors. "This seems to prove that humans are violent and cannot control themselves," said Whisper of Dawn, one of the light aliens called Luminari. Her voice sounded like music, but sad music. "Most species grow out of war after a few hundred years," added a crystal alien. "It is a sign of becoming civilized." Nari felt angry, but tried not to show it. She clicked to the second slide. Slide 2, Scale and Intensity, she said. "Let me show you some numbers. World War I lasted for years and killed 9 million soldiers. World War II lasted 6 years and killed over 60 million people, both soldiers and civilians." The room became very quiet. The light aliens became dimmer, which meant they were upset. The crystal aliens' lights turned red, which meant they were shocked. 60 million? Asked Commander Talon Vex. "In only 6 years?" "Yes, sir," Nari said. "And that was not even our biggest war if you count the time it lasted. Some of our wars went on for 30 or even 100 years. "This is horrible," said Whisper Vordon. "How can any species survive such violence?" "We had over 7 billion people at that time," Nari explained. "And we kept growing even during the wars." The aliens started talking to each other in their own languages. Nari could tell they were saying bad things about humans. She heard words that meant savage and dangerous and primitive. Admiral Zephyr raised one of his crystal arms for silence. "Continue, human, though I am not sure we wish to hear more." Nari clicked to her third slide. This was the important one. This was where she would show them that they were wrong about humans. Slide 3, Innovation through Desperation, she read. The screen showed pictures of machines and inventions. "When humans fight, we invent new things," she began. "We make better weapons, better medicine, better ways to talk to each other over long distances. War makes us create things we never thought of before." She pointed to the first picture. "This is a jet engine. We invented it to make faster airplanes during World War II. Now we use it for space travel." She pointed to the next picture. "This is the internet. We made it so our military could still communicate if enemies destroyed our phone lines. Now everyone in the galaxy uses it." The aliens were listening now. Their bored expressions changed. "Two curious ones, you are saying that violence leads to progress?" asked a crystal alien. "I am saying that when humans are desperate, when we think we might die, we become very creative, very fast," Nari replied. "We will try anything. We will break any rule. We will think of things that no one ever thought of before." She was about to click to her fourth slide when loud sirens started going off everywhere. Red lights flashed on the walls. A voice came from speakers in the ceiling. "Attention all personnel. This is not a drill. Battle stations. All personnel to battle stations." The doors burst open. Commander Bei Hyanwu ran into the room. He was breathing hard, and his uniform was messy. His face was white with fear. "Admiral Zephyr," he shouted. "The Devourer fleet has broken through our outer defenses. They destroyed the Fifth Fleet completely. They are heading for the core systems." All the aliens started talking at once. Some stood up. Others made loud noises of fear. The crystal aliens flashed bright red. The light aliens became almost invisible. "How long do we have?" asked Admiral Zephyr. 72 hours until they reach the populated worlds," Commander Bay said. "Maybe less if they keep moving at their current speed." Nori felt cold inside. She had heard about the Devourers. Everyone in the galaxy had heard about them. They were machines from somewhere beyond known space. They ate entire star systems. They turned planets into metal and used it to build more of themselves. No one had ever beaten them. No one had even slowed them down. "All council members report to the war room immediately," Admiral Zephyr announced. "We must coordinate our defenses." The aliens started leaving quickly. Soon only Nari was left in the room, still holding her presentation remote. Her fourth slide was about human tactics. Her fifth slide was about why humans never gave up, even when they were losing. She looked at the remote in her hand, and then at the empty room. She had not even finished her presentation. But maybe, she thought, the galaxy was about to get a much better lesson about human warfare than any slides could give them. The sirens kept wailing. Red lights kept flashing. And somewhere in space, metal monsters were coming to destroy everything she had ever known. Nari turned off her presentation and ran toward the war room. It was time to show these aliens what humans really did when they were desperate. The war room was full of noise and panic. Aliens ran everywhere, carrying data tablets and shouting orders. Big screens on the walls showed star maps with red dots moving toward the center. Each red dot was a Devourer ship. Nar. I found a seat at the back and watched. She had never seen the galactic leaders like this before. They always seemed so calm and smart. Now they looked scared and confused. Admiral Zephyr stood at the main table. His crystal body flashed different colors as he tried to make sense of all the reports coming in. "The Fifth Fleet had 200 ships," he said. "The Devourers destroyed them in 4 hours. How is this possible?" Captain Lee Soyoung, one of the few other humans on the station, walked up to the table. She carried a thick folder of papers. "Sir, I have the battle reports from the Outer Rim. It's not good news." "Show us," said Commander Talon Vex. Captain Lee put her papers on the table. "The Devourers fight differently than anyone we've ever seen. Watch this." She pressed a button, and a video appeared on the main screen. It showed space with lots of ships fighting. The galactic ships were white and clean-looking. The Devourer ships were dark and looked like they were made of twisted metal. "At first, our ships used laser cannons," Captain Lee explained. "The Devourer's shields couldn't stop them. We destroyed 3 enemy ships right away." In the video, bright red beams shot from the galactic ships and hit the dark Devourer ships. 3 of them exploded in bright flashes. "But then look what happens," Captain Lee said. The video kept playing. More galactic ships shot lasers at the Devourers, but this time, the beams bounced off. They did no damage at all. "In 10 minutes, they learned how to stop our lasers," Captain Lee said. So our ships switched to missile attacks. The video showed white ships firing rockets at the dark ships. The first few missiles hit and caused damage. But then the Devourer ships started shooting down the missiles before they could hit. 15 minutes, Captain Lee said. That's how long it took them to figure out how to stop our missiles too. They adapt, said Whisper of Dawn. They learn from each attack and become stronger. Exactly, said Captain Lee. By the end of the battle, nothing we had could hurt them, but they could hurt us just fine. The video showed the dark ships shooting strange green beams that cut through the galactic ships like they were made of paper. One by one, the white ships exploded or broke apart. Total battle time: 4 hours and 12 minutes, Captain Lee finished. 0 Devourer ships destroyed after the first hour. All of our ships destroyed. The room became very quiet. Everyone stared at the screen, showing empty space where 200 ships used to be. Dr. Park Min-ho, the station's chief scientist, stood up. He was a small human with thick glasses. I have studied all the reports from other systems that fought the Devourers. The pattern is always the same. He walked to another screen and put up a chart. The Devourers show up. They send out small groups to test the defenses. These small groups get destroyed, but they learn everything about the enemy weapons and tactics. The chart showed simple drawings of this happening over and over. Then the main fleet attacks. Dr. Park continued. They already know how to defend against every weapon. They already know how to counter every tactic. The longest any system has held out is 96 hours. What about the Altair system? Asked a crystal alien. They had the biggest fleet in the galaxy. 72 hours, Dr. Park said sadly. The Devourers destroyed 5,000 ships. Then they started eating the planets. Nari listened to all this and felt sick. The Devourers sounded impossible to beat. They learned from every fight and got stronger. How could anyone win against an enemy like that? What are our options? Admiral Zephyr asked. The alien leaders started talking all at once. The crystal aliens wanted to try mathematical solutions. They thought they could calculate the perfect defense that the Devourers couldn't adapt to. The Cathara wanted to use statistics. They thought they could find patterns in the Devourer attacks and predict what they would do next. The Luminari wanted to try peaceful contact. They thought maybe they could talk to the Devourers and convince them to stop attacking Nari. Almost laughed, but stopped herself. These aliens still thought like the civilized species they were. They wanted to solve the problem with math or talking or careful planning. But the Devourers weren't civilized. They were machines that ate everything they found. You couldn't reason with a forest fire or negotiate with a hurricane. Colonel Jinwoo sat down next to Nari. He was an older human with gray hair and scars on his hands. What do you think, Lieutenant? He asked quietly. Sir. Nari was surprised he was asking her opinion. You're the one who is giving the presentation about human warfare, he said. In your opinion, how would Earth have handled something like this? Nari thought about it. She looked around the room at all the aliens making their careful plans and logical arguments. We wouldn't try to outthink them, she said finally. We wouldn't try to make better weapons or find mathematical solutions. What would we do? We'd find a way to cheat, Nari said. We'd do something they wouldn't expect. Something that didn't make sense. Colonel Ko nodded. Go on. The Devourers are machines, right? They think logically. They adapt to threats and find the best solutions. Nari paused. But what if the threat didn't make logical sense? What if we did something that no rational enemy would ever do? As Nari looked at the battle video still playing on the screen, she watched the careful, orderly way the galactic ships had fought. They had tried to minimize losses and protect their valuable ships. What if we didn't try to protect our ships, she said. What if we were willing to lose most of our fleet just to confuse them? Colonel Ko raised his eyebrows. Explained every species they've fought has tried to win with minimal losses. That's logical, that's smart, but humans, ... Nari paused. Humans have a history of winning by being willing to lose more than the enemy thought we would accept. You're talking about sacrifice tactics. I'm talking about being crazy enough to win, Nari said. The Devourers adapt to logical threats. But can they adapt to an enemy that acts insane? Colonel KO was quiet for a long moment. Around them, the aliens continued their careful discussions about defensive positions and mathematical models. Would it work? He asked. I don't know, Nari admitted. But I know it's never been tried. The Devourers have never faced an enemy willing to act like humans do when we're desperate. Colonel KO stood up. He looked around the room at all the panicking aliens. Lieutenant Kim, he said formally, I want you to prepare a full tactical assessment. Show me exactly how humans would approach this problem. Sir, I'm just a student. Right now, you might be the only person in this room who understands what it takes to fight an unbeatable enemy. Nari felt a chill. She realized that her boring presentation about human warfare might be the key to saving the galaxy. If anyone was brave enough to listen to what she had to say, the sirens were still going off. The red lights were still flashing. And somewhere in space, the Devourers were getting closer. Time was running out. 2 hours later, Nari stood in a small meeting room with 6 humans and 12 curious aliens. Colonel KO had given her permission to share her real ideas about fighting the Devourers, not the polite version she would have given in her presentation, but the truth about how humans really fought wars. By Major Song Dayun sat at the front table. She was the highest-ranking human officer on the station. Next to her sat Captain Lee So-young and Dr. Park Min-ho. The other humans were ship captains and tactical officers. The aliens included Admiral Zephyr, Commander Talonvex, and Whisper Ruvdon. They had brought other leaders from their species to listen. All of them looked worried and tired. Thank you for coming, Colonel KO said. Lieutenant Kim has some ideas about how to fight the Devourers. I want everyone to listen with an open mind. Nari walked to the front of the room. Her hands were still shaking a little, but she felt more confident now. These people needed to hear what she had to say. The Devourers have one big weakness, she began. They think logically. They expect their enemies to think logically too. But humans don't always think logically when we're fighting for our lives. She pressed a button and brought up pictures on the screen. The first picture showed old airplanes crashing into ships. This is from World War II on Earth, she said. These are kamikaze attacks. Human pilots would crash their planes into enemy ships on purpose. They knew they would die, but they did it anyway. The alien observers made shocked noises. Whisper of Dawn became very dim, which meant she was upset. The enemy could defend against bombs and bullets, Nari continued. But they couldn't defend against pilots who were willing to die to sink one ship. This is horrible, said a crystal alien. Why would anyone do such a thing? Because it worked, said Major Song Dayun. The enemy had better weapons and more ships, but they weren't prepared for an enemy that valued victory more than survival. Nari clicked to the next picture. It showed a burned city. This is called scorched earth tactics, she explained. When human armies had to retreat, they would burn everything behind them. Crops, buildings, bridges, even their own supply depots. They would rather destroy their own things than let the enemy use them. Commander Talon Vex's eyes blinked. Rapidly, you would destroy your own resources. If it meant the enemy couldn't have them, yes, Nari said. Sometimes the best way to win is to make sure your enemy can't win either. She showed more pictures. Soldiers in tunnels, ships ramming into bigger ships. Cities under attack where people kept fighting even when they had no chance to win. Humans have one advantage that no other species seems to have, Nari said. We're willing to accept terrible losses if it means we might win in the end. We call them acceptable casualties. How many casualties are acceptable? Asked Admiral Zepho. The humans in the room looked at each other. Captain Lee So-young spoke first. In World War II, we were willing to lose 60% of our bomber crews to destroy important targets, she said. That means 6 out of every 10 pilots who took off knew they probably wouldn't come back. And they still went. Asked Whisper of Dawn. They still went, confirmed Dr. Park Minho, because they knew their sacrifice might save millions of other lives. Nari brought up a star map showing the current position of the Devourer fleet. "Here's what I think we should do," she said. "The Devourers expect us to try to save our ships and minimize our losses. They've adapted to fight against enemies who think like that." She drew red lines on the star map. "But what if we don't try to save our ships? What if our first attack is designed to fail?" The room became very quiet. Even the humans looked surprised. "Explain," said Colonel Ko. "We send our fleet to attack them, but we don't try to win," Nari said. "We try to cause as much confusion as possible before we lose. We ram our ships into theirs. We set off our weapons inside their formations. We make them think we've gone completely crazy." Lieutenant Commander Yoon Tae-hyun, who was in charge of supplies, started writing numbers on his tablet. "If we're willing to lose 60% of our fleet in the first attack, we could potentially create enough chaos to... Exactly, Nari interrupted. "While they're trying to figure out why we're fighting like madmen, our remaining ships hit them with everything we have. Not to destroy them, but to plant viruses in their computer systems." "Viruses?" asked Admiral Zephyr. Dr. Park Minho stood up. "Computer viruses. Programs designed to break their learning systems. If we can confuse their adaptation protocols, they won't be able to learn from our attacks anymore," Captain Lee finished. "At least not as quickly," Nari nodded. "Every species they've fought has tried to be smart and careful. No one has ever tried to be completely reckless. They won't know how to respond to an enemy that acts insane." The aliens looked horrified. The crystal beings flashed red lights. The luminari became almost invisible. "Lieutenant," said Admiral Zephyr slowly, "you are talking about deliberately sacrificing thousands of lives and hundreds of irreplaceable ships." "Yes, sir," Nari said. "That's what humans do when we have to. But surely there must be another way," protested Whisper of Dawn. "Some solution that doesn't require such terrible sacrifice." Major Song Dayun stood up. "Ma'am, with respect, that kind of thinking is exactly why every other species has lost to the Devourers. You're still trying to find a clean solution to a dirty problem." "There is no clean way to fight monsters," added Captain Lee. "You either become a monster yourself, or you lose to them." Commander Talon Vex had been quiet during all of this. Now he spoke up. "Let me understand. You want us to fight alongside humans who are planning suicide attacks?" "Yes," said Colonel Ko simply. "And you expect our crews to watch as human ships deliberately crash into the enemy?" "Yes. And after we win, assuming we win, we will have to live with the knowledge that victory required such... brutality." The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Nari spoke. "Commander, the Devourers have already destroyed 17 star systems. They've killed trillions of beings. If we don't stop them here, they'll kill trillions more." She looked around at all the alien faces. "The question isn't whether our plan is moral," she continued. "The question is whether you can live with yourself. If we don't try everything possible to stop them." Admiral Zephyr's crystal formations pulsed with different colors. He was thinking hard. "How certain are you that this will work?" he asked. "I'm not certain at all," Nari admitted. "But I'm certain that everything else has failed. This is the only thing the Devourers have never seen." The alien leaders looked at each other. They were having silent conversations in ways humans couldn't understand. Finally, Admiral Zephyr spoke. "We will consider your proposal. But understand, Lieutenant, if we agree to this plan, we will be asking thousands of beings to die for an uncertain chance at victory." "Yes, sir," Nari said. "Welcome to human warfare." Outside, the sirens were still going off. The Devourers were getting closer every hour, and the galaxy's leaders had to decide if they were willing to become monsters, to fight monsters. The Devourer fleet arrived early. Instead of 72 hours, they came in 48. Their black ships appeared at the edge of the solar system like a spreading disease. There were hundreds of them, all different sizes, all looking like they were made from twisted metal and nightmares. "Admiral Park," Seungmin stood on the bridge of the human flagship. Earth's pride, he was the highest-ranking human military officer in the galaxy. Through the big window, he could see the combined fleet that would try to stop the Devo RERS. That wasn't enough. Everyone knew it wasn't enough. "Sir," said his communications officer, "Admiral Zephyr is requesting permission to begin the attack." "Tell him we're ready," Admiral Park replied. He turned to his crew. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. Today, we execute Protocol Ragnarok. Remember, we're not trying to win the first battle. We're trying to confuse them long enough for the real attack to work." On other ships, similar announcements were being made, but the human crews heard something different in their orders. They heard permission to do what they had trained for but never expected to actually do. Captain Choi Young-soo commanded the destroyer Soul's Vengeance. His ship was loaded with extra explosives and computer viruses. His job was simple: get as close to a Devourer command ship as possible, then ram it. "Sir," said his pilot, "are we really going to crash into them on purpose?" "That's the plan," Captain Choi said calmly. "Any crew member who wants to transfer to another ship can do so now. No shame in it." Nobody moved. The entire crew stayed at their posts. The battle began exactly as every other battle had begun. The galactic fleet formed neat lines and started shooting at the Devourers with their best weapons. Lasers, missiles, and energy beams lit up space between the two fleets. For the first few minutes, it looked like a normal space battle. Some Devourer ships took damage. A few small ones even exploded. But then the Devourers started adapting, just like always. Their shields got stronger. Their armor got thicker. Soon the galactic weapons weren't doing any damage at all. That's when the humans did something no one expected. The Soul's Vengeance broke formation and charged straight at the biggest Devourer ship. Captain Choi's voice came over the radio for everyone to hear. "This is Soul's Vengeance. We're going to show these metal monsters what humans do when we're angry. See you all in whatever comes after this." The destroyer hit the Devourer command ship at full speed. But Captain Choi had done something clever. Just before impact, he activated his ship's self-destruct sequence and all the extra explosives they had loaded. The explosion was huge. It didn't just destroy the Soul's Vengeance. It blew a massive hole in the Devourer ship and caused a chain reaction that damaged 3 other enemy vessels. For the first time in recorded history, the Devourer fleet stopped moving forward. They paused, as if confused. "All human ships," Admiral Park announced, "begin suicide runs. Make them count." What happened next shocked both sides of the battle. Human ships broke away from the main fleet and started ramming Devourer vessels. But these weren't desperate last attacks. They were planned, coordinated strikes designed to cause maximum chaos. The human cruiser, Bizarne's Hammer, crashed into a Devourer factory ship that was building new fighters. The explosion destroyed both ships and sent burning debris into nearby enemy vessels. The frigate Incheon's Fury rammed a Devourer communications array, cutting off their ability to coordinate with half their fleet. Commander Bae Hyanwoo, flying a small fighter, managed to get inside a damaged Devourer ship through a hole in its hull. Instead of trying to escape, he set off a nuclear bomb inside their computer core. "They're insane," transmitted a Cathara commander as he watched human ships sacrifice themselves one after another. "They're throwing away strategic assets for minimal tactical gains." But Nari, now serving as tactical coordinator on Admiral Zephyr's command ship, saw something the aliens didn't understand. "Look at the Devourer formation," she told Admiral Zephyr. "They're not adapting like they usually do. They're confused." It was true. The Devourer ships were moving in irregular patterns. Some were trying to defend against ramming attacks. Others were trying to figure out why their enemies were acting so irrationally. "Their computer systems can't process this," Dr. Park Min reported from his analysis station. "They're designed to counter logical threats. Suicide attacks don't fit any of their programming models." Phase 2, Admiral Park announced, "All ships with computer viruses, begin your runs." This was the real plan. While the Devourers were distracted by the ramming attacks, other human Ships loaded with computer viruses started making their own suicide runs. But these ships had a different goal. Major Song Dayun led a team of fighters directly into the heart of the Devourer fleet. Her ships were small and fast, designed to get past the enemy defenses while they were focused on the bigger threats. Remember, she told her pilots, we're not trying to destroy their ships, we're trying to plant viruses in their systems. Get close, upload the virus, then get out if you can. But getting out wasn't really part of the plan. Major Song's fighter made it to a Devourer data processing ship. She uploaded her virus package, then set her ship to self-destruct right next to their main computer core. The virus was something Dr. Park had designed specifically for this mission. It didn't try to shut down the Devourer systems. Instead, it made them doubt their own learning processes. Every time a Devourer ship tried to adapt to a new threat, the virus made it second-guess itself. It made the ships think they were making mistakes even when they weren't. Lieutenant Commander Yoon Taehyun's ship carried a different type of virus. His job was to upload false data into their tactical systems. He succeeded in making the Devourers think human ships were much bigger and more dangerous than they actually were. The battle raged for 6 hours. The human fleet was almost completely destroyed. Out of 200 human ships, only 30 were still fighting. But something incredible had happened. The Devourer fleet was retreating. Sir, reported a confused Cathara officer, the enemy is pulling back. This has never happened before. Admiral Zephyr's crystal formations pulsed with amazement. In all recorded encounters, the Devourers have never retreated from any battle. Nari watched the enemy ships moving away from the battlefield. They weren't moving in their usual organized patterns. They looked uncertain, almost afraid. The viruses worked, Dr. Park announced. Their learning systems are corrupted. They can't trust their own adaptation protocols anymore. But at what cost? Asked Whisper of Dawn sadly. The answer was written. In the casualty reports, over 8,000 human lives lost, 170 ships destroyed, entire crews that had volunteered to die so others could live. Captain Lee Soyoung's voice came over the radio. Her ship was one of the few human vessels still intact. Admiral Park, this is Captain Lee. We've won this battle, but we need to prepare for the next one. The Devourers will adapt to our tactics eventually. How long do we have? Admiral Park asked. Unknown, sir, but we've bought time. Time to spread these tactics to other fleets. Time to teach the galaxy how to fight like humans. Nara looked at the list of names scrolling across her screen. All the humans who had died in the last 6 hours. Captain Choi Young-soo, Major Song Dayun, Lieutenant Commander Yoon Tae-hyun, hundreds of others. They had saved the galaxy by doing something no civilized species would ever do. They had won by being willing to lose everything. The question now was whether the galaxy could live with what it had learned about winning wars, the human way, and whether humanity could live with what they had become to save everyone else. 3 days after the battle, Nari stood in the memorial hall of the space station. The walls were covered with pictures of everyone who had died fighting the Devourers. Human faces, alien faces, young and old, all staring back at her. She stopped. At Captain Choi Young-soo's picture, he had been only 28 years old. His file said he liked to paint in his free time and wanted to open an art school when his military service ended. Now, he would never paint again. The hardest part is the quiet, said a voice behind her. Nari turned around. Admiral Park Seung-min stood there, looking much older than he had before the battle. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his eyes looked tired. Sir, Nari asked. After a battle like that, you expect to keep hearing explosions and alarms, he explained. But instead, everything just gets very quiet. That's when you realize how many voices you'll never hear again. They stood together looking at the pictures. So many pictures. Was it worth it? Nari asked quietly. Ask me that question in 50 years, Admiral Park replied. When we see if the galaxy stays free or falls to the next threat that comes along. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Admiral Zephyr approached them, his crystal body glowing with soft Blue light, behind him, walked Commander Talonvex and Whisper of Dawn. Lieutenant Kim, Admiral Zephyr said, "We need to speak with you." They went to a small conference room. Through the window, Nari could see ships from dozens of different species docked at the station. Word of the victory had spread quickly across the galaxy. "The Galactic Council has made a decision," Admiral Zephyr announced. "We want to establish a new military training program. We want you to lead it." "Me, Sir?" Nari was surprised. "I'm just a lieutenant." "You're the person who figured out how to beat the Devourers," said Commander Talonvex. "Every star system in the galaxy wants to learn human military tactics now." Whisper of Dawn floated closer. "They want to learn how to fight like humans. Do how to win by accepting terrible losses." Nari felt uncomfortable. "Sir, with respect, I'm not sure that's a good idea." "Why not?" asked Admiral Zephyr. "Because human warfare isn't just about tactics," Nari explained. "It's about being willing to sacrifice anything to win. It's about becoming something you might not like just to survive." She gestured toward the memorial hall. "Those people didn't die because they were brave. They died because we asked them to throw their lives away." "That's not something you can just teach in a classroom." Admiral Park nodded. "She's right. Human military thinking comes from thousands of years of desperate survival. You can't learn it in a few months." "But we must learn it," Commander Talonvex insisted. "The Devourers will return eventually. When they do, they'll be ready for our new tactics. We need to be ready to." Dr. Park Min-ho entered the room carrying a tablet full of data. "Sirs, I have the analysis of the Devourer retreat." "What did you find?" Admiral Zephyr asked. "The computer viruses worked better than we hoped," Dr. Park said. "But they also learned from them. The next time we fight them, they'll be ready for virus attacks." "How long do we have?" Nari asked. "Maybe a year? Maybe 5 years. It's impossible to know exactly." Dr. Park looked worried. "But they will come back. And when they do, we'll need new tactics that they haven't seen before." The room became quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. The victory had only bought them time. "There's something else," Dr. Park continued. "We've been getting messages from other star systems. They want human military advisors. They want to build fleets using human tactics." "What kind of tactics?" Nari asked, though she was afraid she already knew. "Ramming attacks. Suicide squadrons. Virus bombs carried by volunteers who know they won't come back." Dr. Park paused. "They want us to teach their people how to die for victory." Nari felt sick. "We're not just teaching them how to fight. We're teaching them how to become monsters." "Sometimes monsters are necessary," said Admiral Park quietly. "Are they?" Whisper of Dawn asked. "Or do we just tell ourselves that to make the killing easier?" It was a good question. Nari didn't have an answer for it. Admiral Zephyr's crystal formations pulsed with different colors. "Lieutenant Kim, regardless of your concerns, the galaxy needs this knowledge. Will you help us or not?" Nari thought about Captain Choi and Major Song, and all the others who had died. They had sacrificed everything to save people they would never meet. Now those same people wanted to learn how to make sacrifices of their own. "I'll do it," she said finally. "But on one condition." "What condition?" "We teach them the cost, not just the tactics. Every species that wants to learn human warfare has to understand what it means. They have to know that winning like humans means losing part of your soul." 3 months later, Nari stood in front of a new classroom. This time, her audience was much bigger. Representatives from 40 star systems sat in rows, all waiting to learn from her. "Welcome to Human Military Strategy," she began. "Before we start, I want to show you something." She clicked her remote. The screen showed a picture of the memorial hall, with all its faces of the dead. "These are the people who made our victory possible," she said. "Every single one of them volunteered to die so others could live. Before you learn our tactics, you need to understand that human warfare always has a price." She clicked to the next slide. It showed a simple equation: victory equals sacrifice, times will to pay the price. "The Devourers will return," she continued. "When they do, will need to be ready to pay an even higher price than last time. The question you all need to ask yourselves is, how much are you willing to sacrifice to win? An alien in the front row raised his hand. Lieutenant, how do humans live with making such terrible choices? Nari looked out at all the faces watching. So many species, all wanting to learn how to fight like monsters so they could protect the things they loved. We tell ourselves it's for something greater, she said. We tell ourselves that someone has to be willing to do the hard things, so others don't have to. We call our dead heroes because the alternative is calling them what they really are, which is, asked another alien. Necessary sacrifices, Nari replied. People who died because we decided their lives were worth less than our victory. The room was completely silent. Still want to learn? She asked. Every hand in the room went up. Nara sighed and clicked to her next slide. Then let's begin with the first rule of human warfare. There are no rules when survival is at stake. Outside the window, construction crews were building new ships. Ships designed for ramming attacks and suicide missions. The galaxy was learning to fight like humans. Whether that would save them or damn them remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. They would never be the same again.